Hi, I'm Daria Burke, Chief Marketing Officer at JustFab, welcoming you back to our Leading with Style series, where we get to talk to culture-changing women we admire about life, leadership, and our love of fashion. And I am really excited to be here today with Mandana Dayani. Mandana is a lawyer, a mother, a former talent agent turned brand builder, and an entrepreneur. She is the co-founder of the Dissenters podcast, and I Am a Voter. And I am thrilled to be in her home today. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so fun. I'm so excited.
We so admire and appreciate your conviction to making sure that everybody's voice is heard. And I think obviously it's very important, but it's especially important right now.
Yes.
How did you decide to start I Am a Voter? At what moment did you say, this is what I'm going to do next?
It's kind of a long journey that I think is a huge part of my personal story. So my family and I came to America when I was almost 6 years old. We came technically as religious refugees. And I think when you are an immigrant and you come to America, like, this country saved my life. It saved my family's life. And so patriotism was just such a big part of who we are and how we were raised. Like, we had American flags all throughout our home. We talked about how amazing it is to be a part of a democracy. And I think that there is like a sense of responsibility I was raised with to give back. And you know, when you come to America and literally see the Statue of Liberty, like, you understand what democracy means and you understand the potential of America and your responsibility to uphold it to its potential. And I've had this amazing opportunity to live the American dream. Like, my brother became a surgeon, I became a lawyer. We had no money when we came here, but just like hustle and love and opportunity. And about 2 years ago, when my second daughter was born, I was home and I was just kind of paying attention to how divisive our country felt and how horrible the rhetoric was. And I was seeing what was happening on the media and how people were talking about immigrants and things that I just made no sense to the America that I was raised with. And I just felt like I needed to do something and I needed to give back. And I started taking meetings with so many people. I was an advisor on a lot of different companies, and I was like, okay, I can just sit here and maybe advise a few senators and congressmen. And I sat with them and I was just start asking all these questions. And every single time they said, well, if you really want to change anything, like if you really want systemic change, then we need more people to vote. And I was like, who's not voting? Like, what are you talking? And I think it's because you're an immigrant. And I'm like, of course I voted. Everyone votes. And then you saw like 100 million eligible voters didn't vote in the last election. 31% of young voters turned out. That made my brain explode. And as someone who has built so many brands that targets young consumers, I was like, it's not hard to get them excited about things. Why are we not teaching civics in school? Why are we not like rebranding voting into something that shows to be as cool as it is? And so really the idea came with bringing together 25 women who I have worked with in all my different careers that I love and admire so much. Almost all of us come from fashion backgrounds, a lot in entertainment and tech and PR, and we all kind of sat in the room and we really treated voting like we were its publicist and it was a client, and we wanted to create this brand that was really aspirational, really informative, and kind of got rid of what felt really divisive and more about what brings us together, which is participation and how cool that is. And so, I mean, it has been the craziest 2 years of my life, but like by far the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Well, we are grateful that you've done it, because there's never been a more important time really to engage young people, especially. We saw what that did to the last election, but we also I have seen in previous elections what happens when young people do show up. And so it makes a big difference. So you touched on this a little bit. You are a woman of color. You came as an immigrant. How does that intersectionality of your identity feed into the work that you do?
I think it's about representation. I mean, this generation is going to be the largest generation America has ever had. It'll be larger than the baby boomers, but it's also the most diverse generation America has ever seen. And I think the more we turn out in these elections, the more that our interests are represented in America. Like, the more you realize, I actually didn't know a lot of this until I started doing this work, but if we vote on issues, those issues are represented at the congressional level and at the federal level, because all politicians care about is being reelected. And so, you know, when we take the opportunity to vote on climate change, they know that their seats are on the line if they don't do something about it. And so that is really how we get this generation and all of these different minorities' voices heard. You know, I think for me, being an immigrant was such an important part of my story and why this was also important to me. I think I also was born in a country where we didn't have a democracy, and I saw what that did, and I saw how hurtful that was to my family. Like, we were forced to flee our homeland. And I think that I don't really take it for granted, you know, and I think that's what's common when you speak to a lot of different people that come from different minorities or people of color, is like, we understand how important these opportunities are, and we understand how important it is that our interests are represented. And it's been, honestly, like, I think that's part of the most rewarding work, is getting communities together. Like, I never realized how important that was. I never realized how powerful it is when you bring voices together. And it's been like amazing to watch how much engagement we've had because of it.
And yet, there are still people who say, you know, I don't know if I'm going to vote. And people who are still on the fence. What do you say to those people?
Well, baseline, like, you don't get to complain about it. So if you're not happy with where our country is and you're not voting, you don't get to complain about it. But you actually, this sounds so ridiculous to say, but like, the idea that every single person has an equal say, like, it doesn't matter if you're richer than someone else or older than someone else, like, every single eligible voter has the same power in shaping our democracy. Like, that's really, really incredible. And that your participation can create so much change. I mean, people say, like, oh, there's no point, like, my state is red or my state is blue, but so much of the change that has happened in our country has happened at the local level. You know, when you think about marriage equality, when you think about gun violence prevention, when you think about voting rights, like, all of these things happen because people advocated for them, because people marched, because people protested, and people voted for them at a state level, and the state levels ultimately inspired federal action. I do think that America is facing a reckoning. Like, I do think that this is an important time for everyone to take a step back and reflect on themselves and what they want their role to be in shaping our country. And I know that people feel discouraged. I feel nothing but opportunity and optimism. I have seen people show up in ways I have never seen them show up. I have seen people mask for people in their communities and buy groceries for people in their communities. Like, we have seen people support communities in the most beautiful way ever. And if we can do that at the ballot box, I think we will see the most incredible, profound change ever. And this generation is so hopeful, and it's so inspiring. And I don't know, I don't even understand how someone could contemplate, like, not doing something that could create so much change.
Do your daughters know what it means for
Yes.
what you do?
Oh my God. So my older daughter came with me because she was obsessed with Kamala Harris. And she came with me to meet her. And Andy, who's my older daughter, had never known that a woman could be president. And she sat down and was staring at Kamala, talking, and watched her talk for an hour. And was just, her jaw was on the floor. And when Kamala stopped speaking, she literally walked over and kneeled on the ground and grabbed Andy and gave her a hug and was like, I've never seen a little girl pay attention the way that you did. And Andy looked over at me, and this is like all on camera. And Andy looked over at me and she goes, I want to be president. And I was like, this is the best day of my life. But we talk about voting all the time. It's weird. It's, you know, we talk about, like, hey, do you want chocolate or vanilla ice cream? Like, if you don't vote, you don't have a say in what you're going to have. And so they understand that by participating, they actually have a say in the outcome of, like, food decisions and, like, where we go on vacation. But, you know, activism is such a big part of my life. And to me, activism is just kindness. And so we talk about kindness every day. We talk about being kind to people at school, standing up for people, like, doing something nice for someone. And so every single day before she goes to bed, she has to tell me what her act of kindness was. And I think that ultimately is the same thing. It's like community, activism, everything really just comes down to, like, empathy for someone else.
I love that. I was talking to Kelly Rowland about that, and she's
Really?
a mom of a young son, and she was saying that we are our children's first example.
Yes.
And so for two young girls to see their mom championing and being an activist about one of the most important fundamental rights that we all have in this country it's really incredible.
Thank you.
And it's really inspiring, and I love that so much. And you have obviously cultivated an incredible group of supporters with I Am a Voter. Was there a specific moment when you said, oh my gosh, we're doing something really big? Was there sort of this revelatory moment?
I think what's amazing about this entire journey is I have that moment every single day. Like today I saw a video that Tom Ford made for us. Like yesterday we saw a video that Meghan Trainor made a song and danced to us. I think the first moment, I mean, we launched completely accidentally, and we launched during Fashion Week, and it really just proves, I think, the magic of our movement, which has been that it's entirely grassroots. Every single one of us does this as a volunteer. And when we launched, we had these pins made, and we went, my co-founder and I went to New York during Fashion Week, because that, again, is our background. And we had all these little like Ziploc bags of pins, no idea what we were gonna do. We texted all of our friends that were stylists and editors, and we were like, hey, we're at the Greenwich, come by and grab a bag of pins. And they drove by, like we would hand it over to them. They went to every single fashion show, pinned it on people, left it on the seats, threw them on the tables at all the parties. And the next morning we were like on page 6, the cover of the Hollywood Reporter, and it was like, oh my God, we made it. And it was so surreal, and it was just nuts, but it was so fun. And again, this whole movement, I think, is not at all about me or any one person. It really just has been everyone and all these brands and all these people just kind of chipping in and saying, you know what, I have media I can donate, I have a billboard I can give you, like I have space in my store I can lend you, and everyone has just chipped in, and it has made such a huge difference, and it's been so amazing.
Has there been one thing this year in particular that stood out to you as a pretty big moment so far?
The first time I saw our commercials playing during an NBA game, I was like, what just like that was a huge, I had no idea that was happening. That was kind of insane, I would say.
It's kind of amazing.
It just make all of these things. I'm just like, I'm such like a fangirl. So you know what I mean? Like I have zero chill. I always joke about. So and I think that's the most important part, is like not taking yourself seriously and recognizing how crazy this journey is and letting yourself like really enjoy it. And so there are just so many moments where all of the women that work on this campaign, we just all FaceTime and we're like, did you just see that? You know, and it's just so fun. It's completely. I would also say we did this. We created a day called Register a Friend Day, because we saw like a single data point that said a reminder from a friend makes you up to 2 times more likely to register. We were like, amazing, let's get everyone to register their friends and we'll make a fake day. And we had this whole tagline that was like, friends don't let friends skip elections. And then halfway through the day, the women from the Friends cast all posted the pictures of themselves with our tagline and text friends to 26797. And I mean, I have not recovered, and it has been like 2 months. That was so off the charts, insane and fun. And we had like 250 press articles about it the next day.
Congratulations.
It was so fun.
I remember seeing Gwyneth and Robert Downey Jr.
Okay, did you listen to it though? And I was like, oh my God. Did she just say that? And I think, again, that's like really has been, because we're all marketers, like we have treated this and tried to make it really fun. And so every day we're just constantly surprised. I mean, when Henry Winkler, this was like we had launched for 3 weeks, wore our pin when he won his Emmy and talked about voting, and I was like, did anyone just see that? Like,
do you still know how that happened?
Well, I'm friends with his daughter, but I didn't know that was going to happen, and I obviously didn't know he was going to win. I mean, it's all community, right? It's just everyone just chipped in, and it's like, it's amazing.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And you're so positive, and you have so much enthusiasm, but there are some negative commenters and folks who like to, voice their opinions in not the nicest way online. How do you handle that?
So my mentor through building I'm a Voter and through all of my activism is this woman named Shannon Watts. She created Moms Demand Action in every town. She is classified every year as the NRA's #1 enemy, which to me makes her the coolest woman in the world. And she has been really helpful in giving me the confidence I needed to do what I do. But she, has trolls attacking her all day. And I think that it's just, I just don't care. Like, if I'm pissing you off, like not you, but if I'm pissing these people off, then I'm doing something right. If I'm rattling them and I'm making them think about what they're doing, or I'm making them a little bit uncomfortable because they're racist, that's awesome. That actually makes me super happy. Come at me, let's go. If I say something that I shouldn't say and I piss off someone I admire, then I definitely take a minute and really think about what I've done and what I've said and how I could be better and what I can learn from it. But as far as like the trolls, I just I couldn't care less.
So what do you say to folks who tell you to stay in your lane?
Oh my God, so many people said that to me throughout this journey of like, what are you doing? Or like, why did you quit your job? Which again, I understand is a little risky, but this is my lane. This is my country. I occupy, as my friend Carla Welch says, I occupy all lanes. Like, don't ever tell a woman to stay in her lane. We don't have lanes. Women are amazing. And that was another advice that Shannon Watts gave me at the beginning. I said, this team that we've been building is all women. Is that weird? She's like, no, I created Moms Demand Action. There is nothing more fierce than a badass army of moms and women who get shit done. People will always come at you with negativity and doubt, and it just makes the victory like sweeter. I don't know. We had this moment last week when H&M in Times Square put up, I'm a voter, and their HM votes. That actually happened because our co-founder Natalie Tran was working with H&M, and like just seeing it lit up and seeing it everywhere, it was so real, and it was just reminded me of like, oh yeah, all those people, like, bye.
I think that's right. I think at the end of the day, you can either be motivated by sort of the detractors, or really let them get to your head, and whether that's in leadership, whether it's as an activist, I think hopefully more people can be motivated by folks who said, you shouldn't be doing that.
Well, I think I'm really competitive, so it makes me want to succeed more, but it also was something that I learned. I think a lot of times as women, like, we're taught to be the peacekeepers. And so I would say in the first few years of my career, like when I was in a room and people said things that I didn't agree with, I would laugh. And then I realized that's not okay. Like, when someone says the racist thing, you tell them that they did the racist thing. And that's part of being an activist. It's saying something in the PTA meeting. It's telling your mom, like, don't use that word. It's standing up to any injustice whenever you see it. And I think that takes a really long time to feel comfortable making other people uncomfortable. But I definitely don't think I started in my career that way. I think I used to try to be as fun and likable and as perfect, and it was so contrived. And I think it really took so much of this to realize that like I am so much more comfortable just being myself and voicing my opinions, and knowing that, look, it's hard being an activist sometimes. Like, there are days where I feel like completely naked, where you're just like, oh my God, everyone can see me. I walk into a room and people know what I think, and I know that they don't like it, but I'm also so empowered because I know that I'm 100% myself. And I think that to me is more empowering and more exciting than anything else.
I agree. And that's why we love you. So keep doing it. Keep speaking up. So let's shift gears a little bit.
Yeah.
You started the Dissenters podcast
Yes.
with your very good friend, Deborah Messing.
Yes.
And I love that you get to work with a friend, and you get
really
to sort
fun.
of merge your lives and careers and interests in that way. What is it like working together?
It's really fun. So we actually work on I'm a Voter together too. She was a really big part of helping create I'm a Voter. But for us, like, because we're activists, like, activists themselves are like the biggest celebrities to us. We're obsessed with them. And so it kind of started as a joke where we said, if we made a podcast, we could meet these people and we could get their phone numbers and we could get them to want to talk to us, and it would be so fun. And then we realized how important it was to tell these stories, because we wanted to show people that anyone could be an activist. It's not like you don't need a degree in it. It's just something you say and something you do. And I think a lot of people look at the end result and think it's so intimidating. But what you learn about all of these people that are doing incredible things is they just started because they said something, or they wrote an email, or they called a friend and said, let's volunteer. And then it grew and it grew. And so it was really, I think, our goal was to inspire activism in other people and show them that everyone can be a hero. But also then we got to like meet Jane Fonda and like Hillary Clinton and Lena Waithe and people that we're obsessed with, and Glennon Doyle, like picking her brain for 2 hours. Like, are you kidding? It's like we completely fangirl and lose our minds. It's so fun.
It is fun. I mean, that's sort of why we started Leading with Style. My team and I, we had all of these incredible women, truly, that we admire, and women who we think are shaping our culture and doing really interesting work and telling great stories. And we wanted to be a part of that and to be able to create a bigger stage for those stories to get shared. So I totally get that.
But how cool and how important is it that you guys are using your platform to elevate those voices, which I don't think a lot of brands take the initiative to do. And I think that's so awesome, and you guys should be so proud.
Thank you. It's
really
important.
Cool.
It's important.
Obviously, I
you
interview
get
people,
to do
so
it.
now I just like want to start asking you questions.
Yes.
But I want to be like, why?
Next time.
How did that happen?
Exactly. So what is one of your favorite things to do to lighten the mood on the dissenters? Because you guys do, yes, you have fun, and yes, it's lively discussion, but you talk about some heavy
Really
stuff.
heavy,
And
yeah.
so what do you do to keep it light?
I mean, I think that, as you can tell, like I'm so animated, and so is Deborah, and we're such nerds. So I think that is pretty disarming at the up front. But I mean, it's finding the lightness in these situations, and like we all love Housewives and Bravo and food, and so we have we kind of bring in all of these conversations. Like I remember we were interviewing Congressman Adam Schiff right after the impeachment trial, and I had heard from someone else that he's obsessed with The Big Lebowski. And I was like, that's so random and so funny. And I called Deb and I was like, okay, we're going to go on Zoom. What if you and I had the dude as our backgrounds, as our virtual backgrounds? And so she was like, yeah, that's amazing. We should totally do that. We're totally going to get him. It's going to be so funny. So we think we're so smart. We have these amazing backgrounds of the dude. We go on the Zoom and we turn off our cameras, wait for him to come, and we were going to like count to 3 and turn on our Zooms. He shows up and he is the dude as his background. And then we turn ours, and the 3 of us sitting there with like The Big Lebowski as our virtual background. I mean, it was so funny and it was so fun. And again, it's like these nerdy moments, but they're really real because we're just so excited. It's been amazing.
I think it's a good balance. I think, you talked a little bit earlier about not being so serious, but taking the work seriously, right? And you're doing serious work, but you can have fun doing it.
Yeah, because it's a privilege. Like I know every day what a privilege it is to vote and to talk about these things and to have a platform that you can speak about things that matter to you, and also just to meet people doing it. Like we spoke to a woman who's like 27 and nominated for Nobel Peace Prize. I'm like, you are the coolest person I've ever spoken to. Please be my friend. Yeah, it's amazing.
So I can't sit with you and not talk about fashion.
Oh my God, my favorite. My first love.
One of my favorites as well. Probably, okay, it might be my first love too. So your collection for us is titled Be Heard, and you're really focusing a lot on classic, strong, powerful styles for women to wear. What makes a shoe powerful for you?
I think how it makes you feel. And so I think for me, like I've kind of adopted a uniform. So I have like the things that I know I love to wear that I always feel good in. And for me, the shoe is what completes it. And so like a pump for me is just like, bring it on. I just feel like so powerful in that moment. And a strong boot, like I just think it sends such an important signal of your mood and how you're feeling. And it just like completes like all of who I am that day. I don't know, it's really weird, but it's such an important part for me.
It's like your armor.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, even when I was in high school, like I was joking about this, but when I was younger, I was so perfect and I did so well in school, and I was always like volunteering and working on campaigns. And the only way I could rebel, because I had to be so damn perfect at school, was my fashion choices. So I would dress like a crazy person, or I would make my hair pink. And I was like, this is me being a rebel. And I think even today, my fashion choices are some of the biggest risks I take because it's so fun.
I love that. How do you want women who experience your collection, how do you want them to feel?
Just confident. I think there's nothing more beautiful and more sexy than a woman who feels confident in herself and in her opinions and who she is, and just like doesn't give a shit what anyone else thinks of her. And that comes hand in hand with just like speaking your mind and being heard and just being 100% who you are, because whatever that is, it's going to be beautiful.
I love that. Whatever it is, it's going to be beautiful. Okay, so what are you wearing on November 3rd? What shoes are you going to wear?
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm going to wear the Giovanna combat boot. I love it, and it's so comfortable, but I am going to vote by mail. So I'm going to put on my combat boots. I'm going to march to my mailbox, and I'm going to put in my ballot the first day that I can. I'm so excited to vote by mail this year. Do you know how you're voting?
By mail as well. First time in California. I'm really excited.
It's going to be such a good year.
Yes. So before we wrap up today, we always end our Leading with Style interviews with one question.
Yes.
What is the best advice a woman you admire has given to you?
I would say, so, I mentioned earlier Shannon Watts, who's my mentor. I think in addition to telling me to lean into women, one of the best pieces of advice she gave me was, if you waited because when I was starting I'm a Voter, I clearly didn't know anything about this space. I mean, it was so new for me. And she just said, listen, if you wait until you know everything to start something, you will never start anything. And she was just like, dive in and learn as you go, and make a commitment to learn as you go. And I think that was really helpful, and it keeps kind of coming up in all of my conversations about activism, which is like, don't wait. I think a lot of people wait for someone to ask them, or for like a sign from God. I don't know what people are waiting for, but I think if you recognize that whatever it is in life you want to do, I know so many people that are unhappy in their jobs or relationships or anything, they're always like waiting for something, and you realize how precious time is. And so it's really just do whatever it is that you are passionate about and curious about. Like, curiosity is like the most beautiful, powerful tool we all have. And so I would just say start.
Don't wait.
No,
That's
don't
powerful.
wait I mean, you're never going to know everything about anything.
That's powerful, really powerful. Thank you so much for sitting down with
This has
me
been so
today
fun.
and for having me in your home. I really appreciate it. I am so excited for women everywhere to shop your collection and to get a chance to feel strong and confident and powerful, and take charge with whatever it is that they want to do. And really, now more than ever, thank you for reminding us that all of our voices should be heard, and that this is the time for us to speak out. So thank you so much.
Oh my God, this has been so much fun, and I love the shoes so much, so thank you.
We will be back in December with another inspiring woman for Leading with Style.